Hi there, my name is Yana, and I've taken the liberty to create a slideshow for us students because I see that a lot of us are struggling with a computerized bookkeeping module or textbook, and I've tried from my side to make like a summary and a PowerPoint slide so that we can understand it better, and as I'm learning, you can learn too. So this information I got from my Computerized Bookkeeping Office Computing textbook that is from the ICB and Edge Learning Media, and it contains a summary of the work that we need to learn for the exams. We're going to deal with a few things, but this lesson will be about discussing the history of computers briefly. Then in later videos or subsequent videos, we will deal with learning what a PC is and how it basically works, identifying the main concepts of PC hardware, understanding why upgrading PC is important, identifying various PC software applications, differentiating between hardware and software, understanding the interaction between hardware and software using the IPOS cycle, understanding what networks are used for, understanding the basic components of networks, and explaining the advantages and disadvantages of using computers. But as I said, in this video, we're just gonna deal with discussing the history of computers. So let's get started. Okay, in 1946, the electronic. Let's start here. The first computer was conceptualized by a 19th century British mathematician called Charles Babbage. His analytical engine, a programmable logical center with memory, was never built, even though Babbage worked on it for 40 years. The Colossus was the world's first electronic digital programmable computer. British codebreakers used the Colossus to read secret German messages during the World War II. In 1946, the electronic numerical integrator and calculator, the ENIAC, was put to work at the University of Pennsylvania. Designed to perform artillery firing calculations, the ENIAC was America's first general-purpose digital electronic computer. Unlike the Mark I, which used electromechanical relays, the ENIAC used vacuum tubes, and it was much faster. The Mark I, Colossus, and ENIAC used the binary system, which reduced the counting process to 2 digits, 0 and 1. This was compatible with the basis of computer operation. Combinations of on-off or yes and no switches called logic gates that responded to electrical charges and produced information called bits. In 1947, Bell Labs invented the transistor, which replaced the vacuum tube as a faster, smaller conduit of electrical current, and a few years later, Bell Labs produced the Leprechaun, the world's first fully transistorized computer. One of the transistor's inventors, William Shockley, left Bell Labs and started his own firm in Palo Alto, California, the center of an area that would soon be known as Silicon Valley. Shockley, among others, discovered that any number of interconnected transistors or circuits could be placed on a microchip of silicon. A disadvantage of the microchip was that it was hardwired and therefore could only perform the duties for which it was designed. This dilemma was overcome by Intel Corporation's invention of the microprocessor. The microprocessor could program a single chip to perform a variety of tasks. These technological advances made computers smaller, faster, and more affordable, paving the way for the advent of the personal computer. The first PC was the Altair 8800, which briefly appeared on the scene in 1975. 2 years later, the Apple II was unveiled. According to Time magazine, this was the machine that made the revolution, and was the offspring of Steve Jobs and Stephen Wozniak. The PC did not remain the private domain of Apple for long, because in 1981 IBM introduced its PC, having previously focused its efforts on manufacturing mainframe business computers. Incorporating the Intel microprocessor, the IBM PC set the standard for quality. Have had such a positive effect on the field of medicine that they have provided more precise measurements and the ability to monitor procedures such as surgical anesthesia, blood testing, and intravenous injections. A Yankelovich poll for Time magazine in the early 1980s showed that the Americans were generally optimistic about the dawning of the computer age. In lieu of naming a Man of the Year for 1982, Time magazine named the computer the Machine of the Year. The IT boom. The biggest software manufacturer was Microsoft, with 1984 revenues of approximately $100 million US. System software such as Microsoft's MS-DOS and AT&T's Unix instructed the various elements of a computer system to work together. Another popular software program was the Lotus 1-2-3, which consisted of a spreadsheet plus electronic filing system that gained popularity in the business markets. Software quality ranged from outstanding to awful, and so did the prices. In 1988, computer viruses had become a major concern. In that year alone, over 250,000 computers were infected within a 9-month period, raising serious concerns about the vulnerability of data systems. In September 1988, the first computer virus criminal trial was conducted in Fort Worth, Texas. The plaintiff, a disgruntled ex-employee of a large insurance firm, was accused of infecting his former company's system with a virus that deleted 168,000 sales commission records. Like their biological counterparts, such viruses were designed to reproduce perfect replicas of themselves to infect software that came into contact with the host computer, and there was no telling where a virus would strike. Supercomputers. At the end of the decade approached supercomputers, which cost between $5 million US and $25 million US each, were being used to locate new oil deposits, create spectacular Hollywood special effects, and design new military weapons. Not to mention artificial limbs, jet engines, and a host of other products for the private industry. These machines were able to crunch data at a speed measured in gigaflops, i.e. billions of operations per second. These machines were no larger than a standard bath size. The United States National Science Foundation established 5 supercomputer centers, which by 1988 were linked to 200 universities and research labs. The Los Alamos National Laboratory utilized 11 supercomputers. In 1988, IBM financed a machine incorporating parallel processing, i.e. using 64 processors in tandem, making it 100 times faster than the supercomputers in use at the time. At the same time, IBM was working on the TF1, which consisted of 33,000 high-speed processing units. The world's fastest supercomputer is the Tianhe, or TH2, which is a 33.86 petaflop supercomputer. Smartphones. Just get to the right side. Right. Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone in 1878. He made the first phone call. Although landline telephones are still used daily across the world, they may very well become obsolete one day. In the 1980s, Motorola introduced some of the first cell phones to the public. These cell phones had a bulky design, had very short battery life, and were relatively expensive. The first smartphone was introduced to the public in 1993, that was developed by IBM and Bell South. Although it was basic in comparison to today's standards, it had a touchscreen that was capable of addressing emails and sending faxes. Smartphones are major extensions of normal cell phones. Cell phones make phone calls and have video recording capabilities. Smartphones have GPS navigation capabilities along with a whole array of other apps. WhatsApp and other instant messaging services are one of the biggest forms of communication today, especially among the younger generation. Smartphones are not limited to capabilities such as having internet access or being able to edit a document. They have the ability to interpret and decipher information from a quick response or QR code which may be found on the packaging of a product, for example. Most smartphones produced from 2012 onwards also have high-speed mobile broadband 4G LTE internet, motion sensors, and mobile payment mechanisms. Today, smartphones continue to evolve at a rapid pace. Some smartphones talk to you, answer questions, turn off lights when you're not there, and open up doors. So that's it for this lesson. I thank you for listening to this recording. You can subscribe to my channel, and this information was not intended for selling purposes or anything. It is just to help assist my fellow students. So I hope you found value and that you will join us. And if you want to subscribe to my channel, you are welcome. I will be uploading more lessons soon. Bye bye.